Guys, what's the matter? Lucy, come over here. Come over here. Come on. Hi. Leave Jack alone. Go lay down. Hi. Go over there. Thank you.
Let's say they do, what would the impact on the American economy be? And do you think it will be substantial enough to, for regular Americans to say, hey, this is bad?
Well, yes, I do believe it'll be very substantial. And if we take a look at essentially specifically having tariffs, not just on Canada, but on Mexico and on China all at the same time. In fact, we've done some number crunching and we feel that the impact would be just as large, even though we're more dependent on trade and more dependent on trade with the U.S. Because it's a triple whammy from the U.S. perspective, we feel the impact in the U.S. would be just about as big as it would be here in Canada. So very sizable impacts, very hurtful, both to economic activity and employment. A lot of industries would just be knocked into, essentially not being able to operate. And it would be very inflationary at the same time. So there's this kind of double whammy of weak economy with higher prices. It's just a terrible, terrible scenario that we would envision from these kinds of policies being applied.
I also just saw some new data. Bloomberg is reporting that consumer confidence in the U.S. is at a level that hasn't been seen since 2021, insofar as it's low. Does that surprise you at all?
Well, yeah, I think in part, governments often get, how should I say, they take credit for the economy when things are good, and they get hurt when things are bad. I don't think President Trump's had enough time to really do a lot of damage yet. But I think what he's feeling, or what we're seeing in terms of consumer confidence, is that inflation in the U.S. has not calmed down. And in fact, it's kind of nearing the 3% range in recent numbers. And of course, there's been some issues with poultry and eggs in particular that have really shown up on the grocery bill for a lot of U.S. households. So I think that's having an impact. I don't think that anybody was prepared quite for the aggressive nature of these tariffs that are being threatened on essentially what are the closest trade partners to the U.S. economy. So I suspect for a lot of Americans, they are very concerned about their jobs as well, not just the inflationary pressures they're currently feeling.
When it comes to the impact on the Canadian economy, I guess, let's say that actually happens next week. What are the more immediate impacts that you think Canadians will notice?
Well, I personally think that, and we've done the number crunching with some of our economic tools that we have here at the conference board. I mean, there's no doubt that anything to do with manufacturing will be extremely hard hit. In fact, we had envisioned a temporary scenario where tariffs come in for just one quarter, and we know that the impact on manufacturing would be disastrous, especially on auto. And I think your listeners have probably heard this before, but there's value add. I mean, we've had a very integrated supply chain with not only the U.S. but also Mexico, and the products, the value added, it goes across the border several times. In fact, in the auto sector, some say as many as 10 times. And it would be tariffed at each stage of production. So this is just not tenable, and I think it would halt a lot of manufacturing activity. Now, if the tariffs were to last a long term, if they were to be imposed for a year or two, I think this would put a halt to a lot of auto manufacturing in this country.
Do you think somebody in the Prime Minister's office once said to me, the aim of Trump in this is to quash, to just literally to destroy the auto industry in Canada? Do you think that level of tariff could do that for a sustained period of time?
I think it would, but it would have disastrous impacts in the U.S. In fact, when you think about these kinds of tariffs and tariffs policies, I mean, economists are almost entirely agreed on that free trade is a win-win. And the U.S. and Canada and developed economies have benefited from China's ascension into the WTO. And it's led to essentially a reduction in poverty in developing economies and huge ramp up in purchasing power in developed economies. Now, within North America, things are so intricately tied that trying to move away from that supply chain quickly would just be disastrous across the board for all three economies, Canada, U.S., and Mexico. President Trump may not believe that trade is a win-win. He may see it as, if we're gaining from trade, that's subsidy in some way, but that's absolutely not true. The U.S. is, in fact, purchasing most of what they purchase from Canada is resources. And the resources are critical inputs. We sell resources at global prices on the global stage, and the U.S. chooses to buy those because they're critical inputs into their production process. So all of these things just begs a decline in U.S. competitiveness, in U.S. production, in inflation. I mean, there's just across the board negative and bad news from this.
I just have time for one final question, and I wanted to ask in particular about, it's possible to know what will inform the decisions that the president makes, but advisors I've interviewed have said that particularly on the day that the tariffs were supposed to happen and then the reprieve was granted, it was the markets that helped sway him, right? Because there was an initial hit there. Do you anticipate something like that happening again? Like, what will to what degree can markets be impacted by this?
Yeah, we did see it. I know it was on a Friday in the morning. We had markets declining. It moved markets. Not only did it move the equity markets, but it also moved essentially financial markets. We saw the value of the currency take a hit. I think this is one of the things that will keep and personally, we don't believe that these tariffs are, we certainly believe that they're kind of a strategy to create this anxiety and uncertainty that on its own moves investment without necessarily having to inflict the pain of tariffs. It's a little bit like what we saw in President Trump's first term with the dissolution of NAFTA. We ended up with a CUSMA agreement that was very similar in the end, but it created a lot of anxiety. I think this is a repeat of what we saw back then. And I do think that markets and market activity will sway or perhaps prevent these kind of broad-based bad news tariffs.
All right. I appreciate you making time for the conversation and all your analysis this afternoon, Pedro. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Pedro Antunes is the Chief Economist for the Conference Board of Canada. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to swing over to Windsor, where a pretty remarkable thing happened at a restaurant where a couple of Americans paid for everyone's meal because they feel so bad about all the stuff that President Trump is saying. We're back in a moment with someone who was there.
Now, an update from the CJAD 800 Traffic Center.
Looking at the FM side of the Mercier Bridge, we are dealing with an accident. It's before the superstructure taking up the right lane. Volume now from St. Mall. Northbound the Carry, it is slower. Cut St. Catherine up to the top. Also delays on the westbound side of the Met. Starting Lackport Air off and on back to the Carry. Eastbound Secan delays as well. Before Chateau Vaudreuil to the Latorte again between Dudley S and St. Croix on the eastbound Met. Southbound 13, we are dealing with a stall now. It's on the Keystone Bridge taking up the right lane. The volume there from Samson. Less than 7 days left.
Oh, you're fat.
RRSP with Desjardins and give yourself a gift of tax-deductible savings for 2024. Terms and conditions apply. Let us know what you see on the roads. Call in your tips to star 800. Your next report at 1 o'clock.
I'm Matt Gilmore.
And I'm Robin Flynn.
Trump's tariff threats have everyone rallying to support Canada. So much so that support for Quebec independence is at an all-time low. That's according to the latest Léger poll. Léger VP Sébastien Dallaire will join us at 4:50 to discuss.
And Montreal Gazette reporter Renee Bremer is writing a 4-part series on Montreal's trash problem. Turns out we're pretty bad at disposing of waste. He's going to tell us why just after the 3 o'clock news.
Montreal Now, weekdays 2 to 6 on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
Montreal's home for live sports and sports talk. TSN 690.
Do not care. I do not care. Communism in Seattle.
We were never allowed to talk back in any way, even to
Yeah.
question why should I do something or could I do it later. We weren't
Legit.
treated as if we were people. We were another species. Another rule: control your emotions. In the 60s, masses of baby boomers
Yeah.
would reverse this one and quote, "Let it all hang out."
Oh, I'm so happy. I could be a model or a cover girl. Hey, what's got into that crazy kid system? Oh, Jeff, don't think that way.
Notice how Mother seems to become angry herself because of Jeff's anger. Perhaps she shouldn't, but anger is a violent emotion, and we often see an induction of behavior or spread of emotion to other persons, like a contagious disease.
If you misbehaved, you weren't normal.
We were never allowed to talk back in any
That was
way, even to
fantastic.
question why should I do
In a school in the East End of London, one group was fed on an ordinary English meal of meat and 2 vegetables. The other on a daily meal of cheese, milk, butter, green salad, and wholemeal bread. At the end of a year, the 2 groups were compared, and it was found that for every inch the meat-eating group had grown, the cheese-eating group had grown 1.25 inches.
What?
For every 10 pounds that the meat-eating group had gained in weight, the cheese-eating group had gained 12 pounds. So when you are unable to give your family the roast and 2 veg they've got so used to, remember that there are many attractive cheese dishes to choose from. And you can see from these children that far from there being a loss of health, there is an actual gain.
Can you
In a
talk,
school
say the
in the
milk
East End of
mafia?
London, one group.
So many of us feel uncomfortable around our parents as adults because they didn't get this one parenting skill right. So I have a 2-year-old son, a 3-year-old daughter, and I got them both balloons this morning. My daughter took one look at the balloons and just like ripped the balloons out of my son's hand and took off running. So I have some options here, right? Maybe your parents did one of these. So I can punish her, right? And I can tell you that's not acceptable behavior. That was my first impulse, to be honest. Like that's how I was raised. I could say, stop picking on your brother. No one's going to want to be around you if you act like that.
Yeah.
Right? Or I can even take a more gentle approach, something like, hey, that's not nice. Remember, you got to be kind to your brother. Give that back. That's what I used to do. That's what I thought was right. But I realized that all these approaches can have the same big problem. Something that my wife has actually modeled for me over time is a totally different skill, and it's to slow down and to start with, hey, what's going on? What are you feeling? Why'd you take the balloon? So I did that, and my daughter responded, I want the tall one. And I'm like, tall one? Oh, like you want a longer string on the balloon? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. So I just took it and I unraveled the balloon string a little bit and it was taller, and then she was happy and she ran off. The skill is in the reflex, right? So when a kid acts out, do I start with the lecture? Do I start with punishment? Or is my reflex to inquire and to understand first? Because they might have a reason for
Okay.
Do you see these 4 lines? I just needed to stand there until 5:30 today. I'll give you $50.
I'll do it.
Very good. Great job.
Thank you.
Michael, I'd like to offer you a full-time position here.
Yes, absolutely. I loved it.
Very good.
Great, buddy.
We just wanted to come by and see if you want to skate in town with us.
I gotta stay here. I work it. Can you see?
Is anyone even watching you?
Have fun.
You've been loyal, reliable, you're an asset to me. Come with me. Raising your salary by 30%. And now, you're here.
This thing is massive. You see the bridge from here?
You earned it.
It's incredible. So, what's gonna happen, I guess?
Your day's pay, $2,000.
But I'd like to retire now if I could.
It's been a pleasure working with you. Do you see these 4 lines?
Okay.
Can I get my nails done? Okay, honey, do you lie pedicure too? No, just my nails. Honey, why you don't lie? Pedicure, it may look nice. It's so sexy. It's better for you. Oh, all right, sure. Then I'll get a pedicure too. Thanks. Okay, honey, sit down. I'm gonna sit my lane. She do for you. Good job. Only $20, but that's okay. Sit down. Oh, okay, thanks. So my Ling starts doing my nails right away. By the way, her American name is Tammy. Tammy. You have boyfriend? No, I don't have a boyfriend. Honey, why you don't have? You look so pretty, like model.
cheerleader, something pretty. You like long or short nail? Short nails, please, thanks. Oh, honey, that's why you don't have a boyfriend. I do for you. Long better. All right, fine. I'll have long nails. Thanks. It's okay, honey. Only $4 more. That's okay. Do you like crystal gel? What? Do you like crystal gel? I'm sorry. What? Honey, do you like crystal gel for your nail? It's the best thing you can have for your nail. Make it look nice. It's sparkle like diamond in the sky. Do you like crystal gel? Oh, no, I don't want crystal that. Thanks. Honey, you say to me you do not have a boyfriend. I just want to help you. Oh, okay, fine. I'll have some. Thank you. It's okay. It's better for you. Only $6 more. Open it. Go wash your hand. All right. Thanks, Tammy. Oh, wait. Hold on. This one here is a little bit crooked. See that? No, honey, that your finger do like that.
Why are you licking my ear?
That's funny because my finger didn't do like that before I came in here. It's okay, honey. Don't worry. I pick it for you. Don't worry. Chất bồ là mai bổ nem xe lắm tiếng kìa lắm. She said you look so pretty. Can I get my nails done? Okay, honey. Do you like pedicure too? No, just my nails. Hey, why you don't like? Pedicure, it may look nice. It's so sexy. It's better for you.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. So this is finished? Could you be more wretched? Yep. How much more wretched you can be. Doesn't matter. He got his money, so this is over. But oh boy, you rent. This is the guy's livelihood. He supports his family on this. You keep the car, you drive it God knows where to the tune of 2,000 miles. You return it wrecked only when the cops are on your tail. And then you have the unmitigated gall to stand here with your little friend. Are we done? Are we done? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You know what? The only thing that's left for me to do is get your booking photo with your hair half done and make sure it's part of the case. Because there's nothing that shames you. Okay?
The relationships that are the most toxic.
Here's a beautiful example of a psychological solution deployed in Korea. Red traffic lights have a countdown delay. It's proven to reduce the accident rate in experiments. Why? Because road rage, impatience, and general irritation are massively reduced when you can actually see the time you have to. In China, not really understanding the principle behind this, they applied the same principle to green traffic lights. Which isn't a great idea. You're 200 yards away, you realize you've got 5 seconds to go, you floor it. The Koreans very assiduously did test both. The accident rate goes down when you apply this to red traffic lights, it goes up when you apply it to green traffic lights. The best improvement in passenger satisfaction on the London Underground. They didn't add any extra trains nor change the frequency of the trains. They put dot matrix display boards on the platforms. Waiting 7 minutes for a train with a countdown clock is less frustrating and irritating than waiting 4 minutes, knuckle biting, going, when's this train going to damn well arrive?
That's a good
Here's
point.
a beautiful example of a surgical solution deployed in Korea.
Take my kids from me and act like that? Fuck you and that fucking bitch.
He killed and dismembered his brother for his daughter. When his 8-year-old daughter came back from spending time at his brother's house, Rodriguez noticed red stains on her pants, resembling blood. Concerned, he asked her what happened. The little girl told him that her uncle put something inside her, causing her pain. Filled with uncontrollable rage, Rodriguez immediately went to his brother's house. When his brother opened the door, Rodriguez attacked him, punching him with all his strength until the man fell unconscious. Completely overcome with anger, Rodriguez tied up his brother and tortured him. He burned his brother's private parts with a cigarette and, in the end, cut off his genitals and stuffed them into his mouth. Still blinded by fury, Rodriguez grabbed an axe, dismembered his brother, packed the body parts into a suitcase, and dumped it into a lake 30 kilometers away. However, 5 days later, the foul-smelling suitcase surfaced. It was discovered by passers-by, who alerted authorities. Police collected fingerprints from the victim's body and
You wanna fucking take my kids from me and act like that? Fuck you and that fucking bitch!
he killed and dismembered his brother for his daughter. When his 8-year-old daughter came back from spending time at his brother's house, Rodriguez noticed red stains on her pants.
As a Jewish American artist working in a time-based medium, I must note I'm accepting this award on the 336th day of Israel's genocide in Gaza and 76th year of occupation.
That's the point. There isn't one. And for some reason, you keep coming back. That's the beauty of my channel. Is a lot of you keep coming back. You go, I don't understand. What's the point? That's the point. Get it? It's trolling. You should get this. That's what she said.
Working in a time-based medium, I must note I'm accepting this award on the 336th day of Israel's genocide in Gaza and 76th year of occupation. I believe it is our responsibility as film workers to use the institutional platforms through which we work to redress Israel's impunity on the global stage. I stand in solidarity with the people of Palestine in their struggle for liberation. As a Jewish American,
Pick one out, cheer them on. You're going to get on that log. And here's a beautiful example of this.
Would you have 1 tablespoon of butter left over?
This MasterChef contestant forgot to bring butter and was running out of time. But watch what happens when she asked her fellow contestant to give her an extra.
Searing it off, gonna make a ponzu buttered finish right over the back. If someone lets me borrow their butter.
What do you mean? Oh, butter.
Yeah,
Where's your
forgot butter.
What's the backup plan? Where are you getting butter from?
One of them, if they let me.
Natasha?
Would you have 1 tablespoon of butter left over? Yeah. Thank you, Luke. I appreciate that.
Maybe he just threw away $250,000.
If he does, good for her. We went home. Tomorrow I can still look at myself in the mirror. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The winner of MasterChef. Congratulations, Luca!
That's right.
1 tablespoon of butter left over?
This MasterChef contestant forgot to bring butter and was running out of time. But watch what happens when...
It's all about equality until it's time to work.
Maybe you just think that women should be equally represented in the decision-making fora of our nation.
I don't understand your question, I guess.
I guess you don't. That's pretty obvious.
Well, how about if you phrase it more clearly instead of just insulting me? Look at it this way. Let's talk about quotas for a minute. There's a very wide array of jobs that are fundamentally done by men. 99.9% of bricklayers are men. Should we have quotas for women?
Is bricklaying representative democracy?
That has nothing to do with the question. The question is if there's evidence of structural inequality and oppression because women aren't precisely represented at 50% in all professions at all levels.
Okay, it's like a stupid
The
argument.
relationships that are the most toxic are not the toxic relationships. They're
No,
actually
he
the ambivalent
didn't.
relationships. It's ambivalence that drains us the most. It's like an app running in the background. It's draining you with, okay? Wonderful.
The watch doesn't actually.
Joe Rogan
measure
didn't die.
time.
well, it does, because it's
It measures
Even if he
the
did, I don't really
oscillation
care.
Of a crystal, and the change in the physical state of that crystal has to happen in what we call
Okay.
A whole lot of people are going to be really hurt by what is happening, what is coming our way. And even if they're of a different political persuasion, we need to call upon our empathy and not judge, but listen from our hearts and welcome them
What
into
is
our
she doing?
tent, because we are going to need a big tent. Have any of you ever watched a documentary of one of the great social movements like apartheid or our civil rights movement or Stonewall and asked yourself, would you have been brave enough to walk the bridge?
Would you have been able to take the hoses and the batons and the dogs? We don't have to wonder anymore because we are in our documentary moment. This is it. And it's not a rehearsal. This is big time serious, folks. So let's be brave. This is a good time for a little Norma Ray or Karen Silkwood or Tom Joad. We must not isolate. We must stay in community. We must help the vulnerable. We must find ways to project an inspiring vision of the future, one that is beckoning, welcoming, that will help people believe that, to quote the novelist Pearl Cleage, on the other side of the conflagration, there
Looks like a
will
light
still
fixture.
be love. There will still be.
Okay,
Can I get my nails done?
In a school,
I've joked about being a TikTok refugee, but I was actually an American refugee in 2013 for several hours. When I first moved to Buffalo, my co-fellow and I went out for Thai food, and I was gonna go home to the dorm room we were subletting, but I decided to drive by the house we were getting ready to close on, and so I.
Right, first driving lesson. You ready?
I was born ready, babe.
Okay, we're just going to drive to the park.
No, sorry, can't do that.
What do you mean you can't do that?
It's not on my mind map, so I don't know where it is.
All right, go on then. What's a mind map?
It is a 4D interactive map where I know literally the colour of doors, where I'm going to turn, the names of pubs. If it is in my brain, I can literally visualise it. I can tell you everything that's there. So if you ask me somewhere that's on my mind map, I could probably go there blindfolded. But the park isn't on.
So many of us feel uncomfortable around.
We were never allowed to talk back in any way, even to question
Fantastic.
why should I do something.
Hey, you were bringing a bouquet to your girl, and it started to rain, and you ran across the street and fell down and got mud all over your new suit? Is that your trouble, Bobby? Well, in this Hungarian film fantasy, it's no trouble at all. Just walk right into the dry cleaners, take your turn in line, and then step into the tank.
Yes, television.
Hey, you are bringing a bouquet to your girl. Might as well freshen up the flowers, too. This isn't for real, of course, just a vodka-inspired wash-while-you-wear wish fulfillment fantasy. Step out dry and warm, and you're on your way. That'll be the day, comrade.
Yes, television.
I need it. But what is the legacy of the love generation? Is it more than condoms, faded jeans, granola, and herb tea?
Granola?
Are we left with something other than imperfect memories, earth shoes, and scratched rock record albums? Well, Country Joe McDonald thinks so.
Young people today take for granted things which we had to fight desperately
Like what?
to get. The right to wear your clothes sort of kind of the way you want it, the right to have an earring, the right for girls to wear pants to school, the right to say the word gay in public. We will all remember Hate Street and the hippie friends we knew, and the scene that was too beautiful to last.
But what is the legacy?
I think that it's important to know that our government doesn't, and our news doesn't consider the biggest story of the century, how one company can every year kill 365,000 Americans. It outnumbers any other disease. And these people are allowed to get away with this because of their business interests. I feel that we have to stop their ability to kill this many Americans.
But what is the
I do think.
But what is the legacy of the?
I do think that there is complete anarchy as regards intellectual discipline. I think that the cry of the modern educators and of the academic freedomites, they see it as their function to teach people how to think, and consequently they ought not to be interfered with by the alumni or by the constituents of the local school, has been shown to be a completely phony pretension. Because I think it is demonstrable that the average graduate of the average school in the United States today, whether it's a college, or whether it's a high school, or whether it's a graduate school, demonstrably does not know how to think. That is to say, he goes in for illogical statements, he is incapable of assessing evidence, he is inconsistent, and he is intolerant. According to the criterion laid down by Plato, and it's one that I think all of us here will buy, the criterion that the test of the educated man is his ability to see things as they are, then I say that we are in a position to lay down an indictment against modern education on the grounds that its graduates do not know how to think. I do think that there is complete...
I needed to have an understanding of the political and historical realities that brought us to Vietnam before I could make sense of what I was seeing. I began to acquire the other cards in the deck during the 3 years or so after I got back from Vietnam. But while I was there, nothing made sense because I kept trying to, play this game with 27 cards instead of 52 cards, and it kept not coming out right. And I didn't know why. All I knew was that it was nuts. It became clear within 3 or 4 months that my reasons for being in Vietnam were not clear. I mean, this notion of defending the people against these invaders from North Vietnam, the people hated me. The Vietnamese people hated me. And it was that was perfectly clear. I mean, people didn't say good morning to you. People didn't, people hated me. I needed to have
They're told that they're going there and they're going to be heroes.
There was one dominant model, the nuclear family in which the husband went to work and the wife stayed home. That's now changed. Americans are much more tolerant of people who live together before they marry. They're much more tolerant of single-parent families. They're much more tolerant of families of remarriage. And in fact, they're much more likely to live in all those different family settings, much more likely to than in the early 50s. The 60s gave us tolerance. It gave us a sense that there are alternative possibilities. And for better or worse, we're living with that in our family life. Sex became pulled apart from marriage during the 1960s. During the early years of the 1960s, for most women at least, a first sexual experience would likely be with the person you're going to marry, and maybe not until after you married him. But by the end of the decade, it was something that was much more of an individual choice that had much less to do with whether you were married or not, and much more to do with...
No one had more fun putting on the establishment than the Diggers, a combination commune, playful political group, and street troupe dedicated to the proposition that virtually all of society's values should be challenged and attacked. You simply can't understand the revolutionary nature of what was happening then without zeroing in on the Diggers.
San Franciscans, in the interest of eternity and out of respect for their mayor, will recommend the following course of action at that office this afternoon. 1, that city-owned buildings remaining empty be restored to the people for reconstruction, embellishment, and refurbishment so that these people might live there freely. Foodstuffs, materials, and surplus not accounted for in current welfare distribution be returned to the people for redistribution free through 10 autonomous neighborhood free stores whose rent shall be paid by the city.
The hippies were convinced that mainstream society had run amok.
Oh God, it's so much worse. It's only gotten so much worse.
Even by one of the no one had more fun putting on the establishment. One of the flashiest and most dangerous drugs to hit the hate during the summer of love was a pink wedge LSD variant named after an oil additive. The drug was STP.
It has hallucinations and all the symptoms of an LSD state. The individuals that have taken it report that it's more intense, and there's no question that it lasts longer.
Rock music promoter Chet Helms says drug accidents were inevitable.
When people just randomly took these things out on the street and things like that, not all of them were pleasant experiences. And to me, in my heart of hearts, there will always be psychedelic veterans, just Vietnam veterans. There will be people who gave their lives and minds and so on and so forth to the benefit of all of us, in my opinion.
Charlie Brown Artman qualified as a psychedelic veteran by almost anyone's standards. Charlie, who called himself the boohoo of the Berkeley bag, used religion as a defense for his drug habit. One of the flashy, even by Stone San Francisco standards, the rock and roll party hosted by the Grateful Dead 20 years ago was a milestone event in that raucous, turbulent, mind-bending period we now talk about as the summer of love. You didn't have to be a weatherman to know which way the wind was blowing when an estimated 10,000 hippies and hangers-on showed up for the concert in the Panhandle section of Golden Gate Park. The band, which used to be known as the Warlocks, had graduated from topless bars and fraternity parties and was now known as the Grateful Dead. And appropriate to their Haight-Ashbury audience, they wailed away at Dancing in the Street. The Dead wasn't the first successful 60s band from San Francisco. but it was representative of a revolutionary attitude about music that was sweeping the country.
It was a very exciting time. We were happening. We were.
It's all happening.
We were doing something really different. People liked it. We were being successful at it, and it was working.
Even by
a man at that time owned his wife. His wife was his chattel. You didn't know that? I thought you must have heard that many times. Yes, the wife was their chattel.
What does that mean exactly? What can a man do with his chattel?
Just about anything they wanted to. If they wanted to take him out and chain him up and beat him up, why, nobody interfered as a rule, unless the woman's parents heard about it maybe and got mad about it, her father. Other than that, nobody would pay any attention. That was his wife. He had a right to do with her what he wanted to.
Suddenly, the grass relaxed.
She scares the fucking
It
shit
allowed
out of
us
me.
to
Oh my
be
god.
the people we really are, or really were.
Keep up the grass, the sign says, keep up the grass. Keep up the grass, the sign says, keep up the grass.
Grass was important because it did describe us, like them and us, kind of. Of course, we all grew up 18, 19, 20 years of being rigid little puppets or something. And suddenly the grass relaxed us. It allowed us to be
Chill.
the people we really are, or really were.
100%.
Suddenly,
100%.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above.
They're aggressive inline skaters. I mean, there's something stupid about getting on wheeled shoes and rolling towards a handrail. And in that 15 feet between where you start and when you jump on the rail, you have to convince yourself that you're not going to get hurt, that you probably will get hurt, and then it doesn't matter if you get hurt.
Now in front of the Santa Monica Hospital at the emergency center, a little fraction of the jaw, a little fraction of the wrist, 7 stitches in the chin, and a little bit of bruising on the liver, cuts in there, calculated risks, taking responsibility for yourself. I think that's the major message that we want to put out there.
Wow.
It sucks.
It makes things real. Pain make things real and make things very simple and easy to understand.
Establishment warnings did little to curb drug use, and many users showed up here at the newly opened Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic, run by a young toxicologist, Dr. David Smith.
Whenever people get together and interact and take drugs, it potentiates a toxicity of the drug experience. And you're going to see this summer a new concept of health problem that is a higher incidence of adverse drug reactions. And unless these situations are handled properly, you're going to see a great deal of violence coming out.
It was kind of a social laboratory, but unfortunately it was a social laboratory that went wrong.
Part of what went wrong was the indiscriminate nature of drug use. When potent poison pills were stolen from a medical laboratory, volunteers felt forced to take to the streets to warn Haight-Ashbury residents not to buy the tainted tablets, which someone was peddling as LSD.
It's being sold on the streets as acid.
Establishment warnings did little to curb drugs. But what is the legacy of the Love Generation? Is it even if you didn't use drugs, the music made it seem as if you did?
Anything you wanted to be that summer, you could be. You know, any wish that you made would come true. And it did for a lot of people.
The Dead played at an old Haight Street movie. And even though it was an open book exam, some were failures at the acid test.
Mike, then, being the Lord of the Way, not the way you understand, but St. Mike, since we had the war in the heavens, the significance of these dangerous drugs, to see if you pass the test of don't flip if you can't fly. We're going to see if the endocrine gland system is bigger than man, or is it man and the Sabbath then? But when I say to the $250,000 mansion parents, so-and-so's okay as he's in the other room shooting something in his arm, but all three of them hear me saying that he's not okay, that he is okay, he's got to graduate and prove to me that he's okay, right?
Hi, this is David Hoffman.
And why do you suppose our opponents chose that phrase?
I guess because everybody likes a real American.
Right. And they wanted to transfer that liking for a real American to Mr. Butler. A day or so after that poster came out, I said in one of my campaign speeches, our opponent advertises himself as a real American. I say he is unreal, unrealistic. He is a visionary, a theorist, a dreamer. He is so thirsty for public office that like a weary traveler in the desert, he sees a mirage, and he is trying to sell it to you as real. There. Now, what would you call that? That's name-calling, visionary, theorist, dreamer. That's right. And those are very polite names. And why do you suppose I got
face of determination?
Yeah, go for it, TJ.
Do it, TJ.
Yeah. Yeah, baby.
Right. Ready?
Oh, TJ, what was that you just did?
That's called a Swifty Knuckle Butter.
That's really innovative.
Swifty Knuckle Butter.
What's the problem, sir?
You can't skate here. You need to leave.
You don't like rollerblades?
I didn't say that. I just said you can't rollerblade here. So you don't need to leave.
All right.
Can I sit here for you? Can we sit here? Just sit here.
I don't care if you sit, okay? Just can't skate.
All right. Can we dance?
Yes.
Okay.
What a fucking asshole.
Take a moment and imagine that you're a New York City cop. All right? Well, you've just been sent to an armed robbery in progress at a supermarket. When you get there, a man comes running right at you. He has a gun in his hand. You have no time to take cover. You yell, "Police, stop." His gun suddenly swings toward you. What do? You've got a life and death decision to make. Is that man with the gun the owner of the store? Is he an off-duty cop? Or is he an armed killer? If he's an armed killer, will he drop the gun because he's been caught? Or will he kill you? Remember, you have less than a split second to make your decision. Do you stand there and ask him to drop his gun? Or do you shoot him and hope you get him before he gets you? If your answer was shoot,
what?
Did you make the right decision?
No.
Or did you kill the store owner? Or an off-duty cop? Well, you've just learned what a cop goes through. It's a decision he has to make in an instant and live with the rest of his life. Brought to you by the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, so the police and the public can better understand each other. Take a moment and imagine that you're
When Roosevelt died, Wilson Hicks called me and said, "Get to Warm Springs." I decided to just drive, and I drove all night and got to Warm Springs early the next morning. When the caisson came by with the casket on it, the Secret Service lined all the photographers up. They protected the president as though he was alive. I was standing there jostling for a place, and I heard an accordion playing behind me, and I looked around and I saw Graham Jackson, this petty officer of the Navy, and here he was playing with tears rolling down his cheeks. And I thought, my God, what a picture. I had a Leica, a very quiet camera. I didn't want to attract the attention of the other photographers. None of them paid any attention, and that's how that picture came about.
Long before you as a child, long before you could tell the difference between a smile and a frown, you could tell the difference in the sound of a word, in the sound of love, the sound of anger, and the sound of impatience. And you learned those sounds before your eyes were ever discriminating enough to know a facial expression and recognize it.
One of the big values in the 60s was egalitarianism, that there should not be any artificial barriers to people's participation in society, whether that's in terms of education or employment or really any aspect of it. Now, technology was not, especially computers, egalitarian in that sense, because in order to play pre-personal computer, you had to have a lot of capital, and you had to form a relationship with IBM or whatever company, get a license to do business with them. And the whole
economic basis of innovation in high tech changed with the PC. Ground rules changed completely. You didn't have to get permission anymore from IBM to do a product. You didn't have to have a diploma. You didn't have to have a degree. It was very egalitarian.
People used to look at Crosby, Stills and Nash and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young and realize that they were 3 or 4 human beings that were living the same life that they did.
John Glenn was about to ride the Atlas, a rocket that had a nasty habit of blowing up. But we had an appointment with the moon.
Good Lord, ride all the way. You got speed, John. John Glenn Jr. has begun his first orbital ride around the Earth. Roger, 0G, and I feel fine. Capsule is turning around. Oh, that view is tremendous. Stand by. This is Friendship 7.
The first orbit was beautiful. Then John started going on and on about something outside his window. We started wondering if there was a screw loose up in the spacecraft.
This is Friendship 7. I'm in a big mass of some very small particles that are brilliantly lit up like they're luminescent.
John Glenn was about to ride the Atlas, a rocket that had a nasty habit of blowing outside his window. We started wondering if there was a screw loose up in the spacecraft.
This is Friendship 7. I'm in a big mass of some small particles that are brilliantly lit up like they're luminescent.
John Glenn was about to...
Interesting.
The Rolling Stones were very different than the Beatles. The Beatles had their niche in life. They were hard-edged boys next door, acceptable by parents, okay for your daughter to like them, okay for your son to buy their records, okay to listen to their music. After the newspaper article about the Aeolian discords in their music, they became acceptable by the intelligentsia. So that image was locked in by them. Now the Rolling Stones, who also wanted to be as popular as everybody did, realized that they could not replace that niche by the Beatles. So they began to take on the image of the people that you didn't want your daughter to go out with, the people that you didn't want your son to buy their records, that they pulled into some garage somewhere in north of London and urinated in the streets and been caught by the police. And those kind of things, the rebellious boy next door, the boys that you didn't want your kids to play.
The civil rights movement hadn't started yet. And I was given a story to photograph a singer named Billy Eckstine. And they said, photograph the sound of his voice. Well, he happens to have a sensuous, deep voice. And I think I did that. But I also got a photograph of a fan's. I was very thrilled, and I showed it to one of the editors, and they were very troubled. And then I heard from Mr. Luce 2 words, run it.
The effect that life and its coverage had on the American public was one of making controversy.
Part of the American heritage seems to be Puritan approach to life, but they ought to be upright, they ought to be decent, and it invaded the legislative halls, as you might expect. Almost every state has laws against homosexuality, almost every state has laws against fornication. The government is very concerned with people's moral makeup. The government tries to step in, tries to regulate people. The United States has always been very vigorous in regulating the sins of its populace. In the 1920s, the sin of booze was forbidden. In the 1960s, the sin of marijuana is forbidden. Throughout this whole period, the sin of fornication has been forbidden. And I don't think the government should cut itself for that sort of thing. Let the person regulate his own life. What public harm is caused by, fornication? If we were out in the public streets, there might be some reasons for government action, but these laws in the states regulate private acts between adult individuals in their own homes. I see no reason for such invasion of privacy. What's the life be like in 1990 if we had a very free and easy culture? People smoke marijuana at night to relax. Part of the American heritage seems to be Puritan approach
Your Honor. The Rolling Stones were very different than the Beatles. It's a part of American. Your Honor, I'm Dr. Brooks of the county hospital. That's all I have, Your Honor. In the case of Miss Mason, I can see no reason for the operation that's been recommended. No, he's hard-working and has a good reputation. Do you know anything about her family background? Yes, Your Honor, I do. Several other children, aren't there? Yes. What is their condition? One is a cripple, two others lengthy classes. Feeble-minded. Isn't he always son in jail? Well, yes, I believe so. And knowing all that, you still can to bring more people like that into the world? He's sound, Your Honor. He's not anything like the rest. We should be given a chance to work out her own salvation. I can't agree with you, Doctor. Suppose she is wrong. The chances are that her children will inherit the family name. That's not all. I'm sorry, Doctor. 3 generations of unfit are enough. Petition not allowed. The case is closed. Court adjourned for 30 minutes, Your Honor. I'm Dr. Brooks of the...
Fun's coming up out of school, walking down the street, and here's my dad drives up. Here he shows up again, you know. So I get in the car with him, and I'm a little older and a little more afraid of him. We drive around, he buys me a nice thing, what do you want? And he starts promising me stuff. One was a motorcycle. Got my attention.
Motorcycle.
7 years old. So we drove around a while, then he drove me over to the house, or my aunt's house, and he said, you go in there and get your stuff, and you come back, and I'm taking you to Texas with you. And he said, if you don't come back, I'm going to go in there and kill everybody in the house. And they had the guns in the car. So I said, sure, Dad. I went in and told my mom, crying, I get in the car, and off I go to Texas. Fun's coming up out of school, walking down the street, and here's my dad drives up. Here he shows up again, you know. So I get in the car with him, and I'm a little older and a little more afraid of him. We drive around, he buys me a nice thing, what do you want? And he starts promising me stuff. One was a motorcycle. Got my attention.
Those of us who brought the gun into being, the returning World War II veterans, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We really didn't know. We all came home and we all had children. There was no advice really. Dr. Spock had a book out, but we didn't know anything about child. Let me try to say it this way. There were certain things that you just did.
Today is a high point in the romance of Bob and Mary. For them, the future looks bright.
We didn't know anything about relationships, communication between husband and wife. There was very little communication. Children, child rearing, how do you raise children? No one knew. In other words, it was supposed just to happen. Those of us who brought the baby boom into being, the returning World War II veterans, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We really didn't know. We all came home and we all had children. There was no advice really. Dr. Spock had a book out, but we didn't know anything about child rearing. In other words, let me try to say it this way. There were certain things that you just did.
Today is a high point in the romance of Bob and Mary. For them, the future looks bright.
We didn't know anything about relationships, communication between husband and wife. There was very little communication. Children, child rearing, how do you raise children? No one knew. In other words, it was supposed just to happen. Those of us who brought the baby boom into being, the returning World War II veterans, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We really didn't know. We all came home and we all had children. There was no advice really. Dr. Spock
was coming up out of school, walking down the street, and here's...
They're aggressive inline skaters.
I mean, I know. Editing. I don't know.
Didn't feel that homosexuality was wrong. Inside of me, I felt a very good feeling towards somebody of the same sex. And I couldn't quite understand why this loving feeling was wrong. I wanted to talk to somebody, and I felt it like this, and I felt that there was a possibility of rejection. And in no case have I been rejected by my friends. If anything, my friendships with my family have been closer than ever because now I can talk about areas of my life which I always kept away from them. I'm not hiding anything. It's a very complex thing and a very powerful thing, just being honest and open around your friends. The isolation which is forced on us. Many homosexuals, before they undergo personal liberation, feel very strange, very isolated. Loneliness is part of the violence which is perpetrated among homosexuals. I didn't feel that homosexuality was wrong.
Isn't that crazy?
I felt a very good feeling
Like,
for somebody of the same sex.
About 10, 15 years ago, we were in Provincetown, and my dad was freaking out, telling me not to touch the door handles, because I might catch something.
My friendships with my family have been closer than ever. Because now I can talk
and like 15 years ago, the government was saying that the gays need to be put to death because they're fucking having sex with monkeys, which is causing AIDS, and they're going to spread it to your children, and they should be put to death.
Before they undergo personal liberation, feel very strange, very isolated. Loneliness is part of the violence which is perpetrated among homosexuals. I didn't feel that.
Like in comparison to now, where they're fucking telling kids that are like fucking in kindergarten, talking to them about fucking butt sex and how you, if you don't feel like a girl, you could just become a boy. Like, when I was in school, like, the tomboy was the cool shit. It was cool to be a tomboy back then. And it didn't mean I want to physically be a boy. Like, it doesn't. Changing your gender as a teenager does not make you less of an angsty teenager. All teenagers are uncomfortable and angsty.
Feel very strange, very isolated. Loneliness is part of the violence perpetrated among homosexuals. I didn't feel that.
I remember it as being very, very scary and thinking that this might be it, because we did seem to be a few days away from the very real possibility that the bombs would go off. And this is something that I had been thinking about since my childhood. I've always been afraid of the bomb. I was so afraid of it, in fact, that when I was a little kid, I couldn't look at a doorknob, because a doorknob, especially if you're lying in bed looking at it from the side, looks like a mushroom cloud. And we were taught so much about nuclear war.
Crazy.
We were taught to duck under the desk when there was the flash of light. We would be shown films from nuclear tests showing the shock wave. I was always worried that the Russians would attack during a thunderstorm, because then we wouldn't notice the flash of light. Worrying about nuclear war was very real. I remember it as being very, very scary and thinking that this might be it.
That's fucking insanity. That's crazy. But I have friends like that. They talk like that about religion. That because they thought that God was always watching. They felt that all their thoughts, like even their thoughts, were not private. So if they thought they had a bad thought about something as a child, they thought that they were a bad person. Like, and they thought that everybody knew what they were thinking, and their thoughts were not private. Just so fucked up.
I've got this condition where I don't feel pain.
I would get a glow.
You're a superhero.
Really? Please stay alive. I need you to explain all this to the cops. I'll stay alive. I promise.
Okay, March 14th.
Today I want to talk
to you about an important question. Can police enter your private property,
Yeah.
look in your car window,
Yeah.
open your car door,
Yes, they
and
can.
collect evidence
Yes, they can.
all without a warrant?
If they
This
have
week, we were in
suspicion.
the Supreme Court in a case called R v. Singer, where we
They
argued
can come into
as
your
a
house
reader
if they
may know,
have a
the
suspicion
police
that
can't
there
do
is someone
that,
in
at
immediate
least not
danger.
under a doctrine called the implied license. An implied license is a doctrine established by common law, the courts, that says police can approach a home for the purpose of communicating with the person inside.
Yeah.
For example, by knocking on their door. But how wide is the scope of that power?
Can
The
they
case
look
of
into
R v.
your home?
Singer,
Yes, they can.
which was at the Supreme Court, explores that question. I can't wait to tell you all about it.
If they reasonably believe that you or someone else
If you're
is in
new here,
immediate
welcome. My
danger.
name is Christine, and I'm the litigation director at the Canadian Constitution Foundation, a legal charity that fights for fundamental freedoms in Canada. I upload regular videos about our ongoing legal
And if you
cases
say no to
and
them
other
searching your car, I
interesting
can promise
developments in
you that
constitutional
means
law in
they're just going to
Canada.
arrest
So
you
if
and they're
that
going to
sounds
search
like
your car
something you'd
anyway.
be interested in, please hit like and subscribe below. It really helps my videos out a lot. Also, please remember that nothing in this video is legal advice. If you have your own legal
Also, if police ever promise you anything, if they promise to reduce time, or if you allow them to search your car, then they won't impound it, that is a lie. That is they can full on lie about that. Because they've done it to me before, where they said that if you let me search the car, we won't impound it. And they searched the car and they found contraband cigarettes. So they impounded the car anyway. They said, and they tried to be like, well, it was if I didn't find anything. If I searched the car and I didn't find anything. But that's not what you said. They can do that. Because it's your word against his. Especially when there's 5 other cops that are there. Whose side do you think they're going to take? They're always going to take their fucking buddy's side.
But even without one, the police then walked onto the Mr. Singer's property, walked up to the vehicle, and looked in the window. Inside, they saw Mr. Singer in the driver's seat, slumped over and unconscious. They knocked on the window, and he didn't respond. So they opened the door and woke him up.
Then yes,
They
yes they are.
smelled
'Cause
alcohol,
he's in
and
immediate
Singer
danger.
was given a breath test, which he failed. And he
If
was
you've passed out in the car,
subsequently
then yes,
charged
you're in
with
immediate
driving.
danger and you're
Now,
a
if
liability to put
driving is
other
a
people in
serious
danger.
scourge on society. The courts have held that in numerous cases.
Whether your keys are in the car or not. That's another thing. If you're smoking pot in your car and your keys are in the house, it does not matter. You can still get a fucking DUI. I shit you not. Because you're intending to drive. If you're sitting in your car, I'm like, I live in the car. What am I supposed to do?
That's what I would do if I saw someone wandering around my property looking in my windows. Now, we intervened in the Supreme Court to say that the implied license doesn't give the police the power to do this. The implied license is very narrow. It's very carefully circumscribed. It is not.
It doesn't matter.
supposed to
You're in a
be
vehicle
broadly
and you're unconscious in a vehicle.
so that
They already have the
and
right
enter
to
property
to
and do
go
all
into your
kinds
car.
of things like collect evidence, which they did in this case. It doesn't give police the power to go property by property, looking around, peering in windows, opening doors, and collecting evidence.
It doesn't stop them from doing it.
That evidence to charge people based on what they found. And so that's why we intervened.
And
in
it goes
this
province
case
by
to
province.
help
Every
the
province
court
is different.
understand
Montreal
and
especially,
define
the
scope
SPVM and the
of
SQ, they
that
do whatever the fuck they want. Whatever the fuck they
so
want.
implied license might sound like a technical concept, but I guarantee you use this every day. Basically, the implied license permits individuals, including the police, to approach a residence and knock on the door for the purpose of communicating with the person inside, the occupant.
Yes.
It represents a really narrow and specific exception to the expectation of privacy in your home. But what we've seen is over time, the doctrine of the implied license has been stretched to justify state intrusions into private property in ways that go way beyond their original narrow scope of this idea of the implied license. When I say you use the implied license all the time, it's basically the idea that you're your mailman, your Amazon delivery driver,
Are
your
allowed
local
to approach your
Jehovah's
property.
Witnesses, they can come up to your door and knock on the door with the purpose of communicating with you. Now, you can rebut this presumption that people can enter your property to do that by doing things to rebut the presumption, like putting up a sign that says no trespassing, soliciting, by putting up a gate and locking it. That all rebuts the presumption. But for most homes that don't do this, the assumption is you can approach the property and drop off a package if you work for Amazon. So this case, R v. Singer, is a really interesting opportunity for the Supreme Court to reassert those boundaries of the implied license doctrine. And I think it's really important to clarify it. And we suggest a few ways that the court should think about this. First, the implied license is often referred to as a police search power. And look, I've even referred to it that way, but it's actually not a police power. It's a waiver doctrine embedded in the principles of private property. It originates from the common law of trespassing. Entry into a private property is prohibited unless it's explicitly permitted. It's not a police power. It's a waiver of the occupier's reasonable expectation of privacy, not just vis-a-vis the police, but vis-a-vis the whole world. So it applies to, as I said, missionaries, Amazon drivers, as well as the police. These strangers under this waiver are permitted to enter your property and knock on your door. And the reason this waiver exists is because there is a customary social norm that dictates that the occupier of the home, their consent is reasonably presumed in these situations. So this exists so that you don't charge your Amazon driver with trespass every time they drop off a package. Everyone is excluded from your property except for these narrow exceptions. So the general rule is that you have a reasonable expectation of privacy in your private property. That's your home and your surrounding yard. But you can waive that reasonable expectation of privacy.
And any of this is excluding Quebec, by the way.
Your property, and that's why we call it a waiver doctrine, because there's
that's why they've been saying Quebec and Canada.
Occupier of a home.
That is the whole reason why they've been saying that, is so that
the home for certain purposes, unless it's rebutted by a clear expression of that intent. So a clear expression would be those examples I gave of the no trespassing sign, the no soliciting sign. But because it's implied, because we presume this based on social norms, it really needs to be limited and narrow in scope. So for example, there's an implied license that that Amazon delivery guy can enter your property to drop off a package. And for that, we waive the reasonable expectation of privacy, but not that he can come and look in your windows and open your doors. We have to be very, very careful.
No, but if someone is unresponsive in a car, then yes, they can go.
Any waiver of a reasonable expectation of privacy or any right, it needs to be voluntary.
Because your life is in immediate danger, and you could potentially be putting other people's life in danger,
like a right,
even if your keys are not in the car.
Search, that waiver needs to be given voluntarily and in an informed way. So someone who's asleep or unconscious, like Mr. Singer was, they can't voluntarily waive their rights through informed consent. A person needs to have a requisite informational foundation upon which they consent. There need to be really high standards for recognizing waivers of rights, and they should only exist where well-known customary social norms make it reasonable to assume voluntary and informed consent to enter private property and approach a home. Now, this is sort of what we've proposed as the analytical framework for how to think about the implied license to knock. And it's similar to the one that was followed in the United States Supreme Court in a search and seizure case called Florida and Jardines. In the Jardines case, the majority held that an implied license should only be recognized when well-known customary social norms or habits of the country make it reasonable to assume that somebody implicitly consents. In that case, the court held that the background social norms that invite a visitor to the front door do not invite him there to conduct a search. So in Canada, it's the widely recognized social norm of our societies to permit strangers to approach our homes and knock on the door, but that doesn't give them the right to open that door when we don't answer in the absence of express consent to do that. So the implied license and assumed waiver of reasonable expectation of privacy, we say it shouldn't be widened to include things like police entering property on a bare hunch, to snoop around, open doors, collect evidence, and then charge you with a crime. In this case, there simply is no customary social norm to ground this expansive understanding of the implied license doctrine to walk onto Mr. Singer's property, look into his vehicle windows, open the door, and then collect evidence. We also say in this case that the court should expressly recognize that the implied license is constrained not only by the purpose of the entry onto property, which is supposed to be to communicate, but also by the methods used to achieve that purpose. So put simply, the implied license allows police to walk up to a door and knock on it, but they don't authorize further intrusions into private property if no one answers the door. For example, by opening the door or by looking in the windows. The implied license's purpose exists to communicate, not to investigate. And the method to achieve that purpose is to approach and knock, not approach and open. So we say at the Supreme Court that the court should refine the implied license to clarify that it's an implied license to knock, not to do these other things, look in windows, open doors, collect evidence. This, we think, you know, the way the courts talk about the implied license is they just call it the implied license. We think it should be amended to say the implied license to knock. And this will make it clear to courts, to Crown prosecutors, to the police, that the license ends at the threshold of the door. There's not this customary social norm that if you knock on a door and no one answers, you get to open it. The implied license ends at knocking, communicating if someone answers, or knocking and leaving if no one answers. Now, one of the other really interesting things that this case gave us an opportunity to do was emphasize that the narrow scope of the implied license is rooted in the law of trespass and its application to one of the most sacred zones of privacy protected by Section 8 of the Charter, which is the home and the surrounding yard. So we have a strong right to privacy in our home, and we want, in this case, to get the court thinking about property, which is an issue that we care a lot about at the CCF, and which we think is given undue weight in Canadian law. So the genesis of the Charter protection against an unsearch and seizure, which is in Section 8 of the Charter, it can be traced all the way back to 18th century England in a case called Entick and Carrington, which builds on the core presumption that grounds property rights, including property rights in one's home. And Entick stands for the rule that our law holds the property of every man so sacred that no man can set his foot upon his neighbor's close without his leave. If he does, he is a trespasser, though he does no damage at all. If he will tread upon his neighbor's ground, he must justify it by law. So the core presumption that grounds property rights is the exclusion of others. If you can't exclude others from your property, do you really have a right in that property at all? Now, the seminal case in Canada on Section 8 is called Hunter and Southam. And in that case, the Supreme Court reviewed the historic evolution of search and seizure and built upon it to establish the scope of the application of Section 8 of the Charter. And in Hunter and Southam, the Supreme Court tried to widen the application of Section 8 beyond the common law protection of property. And writing for the court, Dixon responded that there is nothing in the language of the section, of Section 8, to restrict it to the protection of property or to associate it with the law of trespass. And the interests protected by Section 8 can be of a wider ambit than those enunciated in Entick and Carrington. So Dixon's holding in Hunter and Southam was meant to be expansive, not limiting. It calls for the protection of interests beyond property rights, but doesn't preclude their specific protection. Dixon emphasized that, like the Supreme Court of the United States, I would be wary of foreclosing the possibility that the right to be secure against unreasonable search and seizure might protect interests beyond the right of privacy. So in that passage, Dixon is referring to a decision from the Supreme Court of the United States called Cash cats and the US, which extends the Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable search and seizures to a reasonable expectation of privacy. Now, while drawing inspiration from that American decision, Katz, and its emphasis on privacy, Dixon was explicitly underscoring that, like him, the Katz majority was careful not to identify the Fourth Amendment exclusively with the protection of the right to privacy. Now, since the Katz decision, the Supreme Court of the United States has repeatedly asserted that the Fourth Amendment continues to protect property rights independently from reasonable expectations of privacy. It holds this position while simultaneously championing the slogan that the Fourth Amendment protects people, not places, a slogan that Canada's Supreme Court has also reiterated on occasion, including in that Hunter and Southern case. Now, while these positions might seem like they're in conflict, that tension, it's kind of imaginary. It can easily be dissolved by adopting an understanding of the importance of protecting people, and that includes the importance of protecting property over which they have sovereignty as recognized by law and which they need in order to develop as an independent human being. So because the implied license doctrine originates from the law of trespass and in the Section 8 context has been exclusively engaged in relation to intrusions of dwelling houses and their surrounding yards, all of this weighs in favor of a very restrained approach to the implied license. Property and privacy interests in excluding others, and most certainly excluding the state from these spaces, lie at the very core of what Section 8 of the Charter, the guarantee against unreasonable search and seizure, what that right exists to protect. So as a result of all this, we have argued at the Supreme Court that the court should be especially reluctant to expand the doctrine of the implied license in ways that further limit these really key interests. Now, I understand that the facts of this case are really difficult to grapple with. It involves a charge of...
Not really, at all. I'm messaging my brother. What the fuck is this? I'm fucking homeless and you don't even talk to me. I told him, yeah, well, I told you I'll talk to you when you stop taking drugs that make you crazy. I did it for 6 years with a dog. You'll be fine. Tina. It's... Oh, many times. A couple times I showed up because he wanted help and I was going to bring him to my place to come detox and he would lock me out, not answer his door. Now he's homeless, but it's because he doesn't want help. We've done this before. Like when he was getting... His lease was up at his apartment. I was going apartment hunting and I asked him if he wanted to come with me. And he said no. I'm like, so what are you going to do? You're going to sit on the side of the road? I did it for 6 years and I'm fine. Like, and I have a dog on top of that. So. And I had 2 apartments at the time. But it's not actual crystal meth. It's something else. I think it must be what do you call it? Synthetic crystal meth of some kind. I get crystal meth is already synthetic, but it. For some reason, he thinks like I'm in some kind of sex cult, like the paranoia, the delusions. Like the cops called me at one point because we have to confirm that you're not trapped in some kind of sex dungeon. And I was like, no, I'm not. Bring him to the hospital and the hospital will do nothing. The hospital they asked him if he wanted to be part of a trial where he gets to keep doing his drugs. And at the end of the month, they'll pay him $2,000. And they would give him Adderall to take at the same time. That he can still keep doing drugs. I was like, what? Like, how was that helpful? Goes to the church. Goes to the church, and I've been there one time for they do three meals a day for anybody who wants. And they seem really great and all, but they give you a paper bag with a clean sniffer, crack pipes, cleaning stuff for your crack pipe. And I was like, what is all this? Like some mouthwash, some toothpaste. I was like, what is all this? He's like, I get it from the church that does the meals. I was like, I wanted to go to the pastor on Sunday and be like, hey, just so you know, the people that are doing the program in the basement, I don't know if you realize what the fuck they're doing, but they're giving my brother a free crack pipe in a packed lunch, and I don't think that's fucking helpful. So like, I understand giving people who are like shooting up, giving them needles, like, so that they're not getting AIDS and shit. But like, I really don't think it's helpful that they're giving my brother a crack pipe. Whatever. He doesn't want help. I asked him once, I'm like, do you even have a CV? Like, why don't you, like, if you want, I'll help you make a CV. He goes, I'm on welfare. What do I need a CV for? He's just like his mother. He's adopted. He's just like his mother, though. Mother's just like the exact same. She sucks people fucking dry. She'll just take and take and take and play the nicey nice and like pretend like she's your best friend and all this, and she'll just like suck you dry until you have nothing left and move on to the next person. And it's ever since his father died. And he didn't go to his father's funeral. Ever since then, he's because you know what, like, yeah, the police STM bus, I heard that. This one. No, that's why my parents adopted my brother. Because he was going to sit on the side of the road and fucking wait. I was like, you're just going to sit there on the side of the road. I was going to leave him. I was going to go check on him. But I was trying to teach him a lesson. You can't just fucking sit on the side of the road and wait for someone to feel bad for you and have them pick you up. And that's exactly what he did. And my parents were like, oh, would you be okay if Fury lived with us? Or if Fury moved in with us? And we adopted him. And I was like, not really, but pretty sure you're going to do it anyway. Which is exactly what she did. And then when his drug problem became too bad, she wanted him out. And I even went and talked to his landlady. Like, Terry doesn't even fucking like me, but I went in her office anyway, and I was like, can't throw him out, because he can't come with me. Like, he's convinced that there's a chip in his head. Someone implanted a chip in his head. And the government's controlling him, this and that, all these other fun things. He does. He does. Because, you know what? Yeah. All that. Someone gave him a package to bring to the post office and paid him $20 to do it. He didn't know what was in it. And now that the government is following him, and it's very specific. It's oddly specific. Like his delusions. Always has to do with something like sexual. Like it's fucked up. Like, stop making stupid people famous. I agree with that. You know what? I'm all for Yeah, no. And he's like, he goes to the police. He will go to the police himself. Like, and he was like, I'm telling, it's very specific stuff though. Like, what is this? Oh, cool. Some guy who's working in the metro. You know what? I'm all for, like, what was the thing I wanted to try? You know what? That's like another thing that people were doing to him, where people were like starting to agree with him. Because they're like, yeah, Fury, okay, tell me more about it. Like, I was like, okay, but you guys aren't helping. Like, I know what you guys are trying to do, but that helps when people actually aren't crazy and they're just like kind of fucked up on drugs and you're not trying to talk them down. Or like when people are intoxicated and you're like, yeah, sure, okay. Like, just to like try to talk them down. But like, he's actually crazy now. Like, it's actual brain damage. Like, I'm off. Like, what was the thing I wanted to... but see, but because the people we hang out with, sometimes they're kind of mean. But that's fatal. It's in their head. It's their way of accepting you into the group. If they didn't fuck with you, then that means that they don't want anything to do with you, and they would ignore your existence and pretend like you're not a fucking human being. So their way of being like mean to you, it is mean, yeah, but it's their way of saying that we're including you, whatever kind of, we're bothering with you, it means. And they're trying to toughen you up, like. Okay. Or was it a drug that I wanted to try? DMT. Like, that is something I would be down for. Not too long ago, I had some guy that we were friends with for a bit who gave me 2 tabs of acid. And they were just kind of like sitting there. I was like, hey, why don't we take 2 tabs of acid today? Why not? Like, I'm all down for like fucking experimenting with drugs. Like I told him, I'm like, you're a lot more fun when you're on hallucinogens. He's a great time when he's on hallucinogens. That's ridiculous. No, it's not ice. It's something else. Called Tina. I've been clean for like October. Since October, I have been clean. But I was taking this feed from 16 up until about October. It was a replacement for my Adderall. Because I finally did get an Adderall prescription, but my better mom died, and I was really upset, not thinking properly, and I needed a ride to my doctor's appointment, and my doctor saw my business partner, who was like my parents' age, and he... Yeah, but Kate, it's not like that though. It's self-medicating. I don't know if you noticed. I'm in bed all the time. I think it was from when I was a baby. I got bronchiolitis. It's like pseudomonia and bronchitis. Yeah, but like it's a bit different. My doctor thought my business partner, who was like my support system, like I don't know what I would do without Dom. But me and Dom is my life partner. We are like, I will be there when he is old and dying, and I will be the one who brings him to the hospital and to all these other places, and Dom makes sure that I have somewhere to live. So I'm not in a tent with my boyfriend in his backyard. Dom has never threatened to throw my stuff out. Dom has never threatened to kick me out. If I ever need somewhere to go, I can always go to Dom's. Because he's the support system that I did not get from my family. Don't let people who are going nowhere take you with them. So when I was a baby, I was born with bronchiolitis, and I was given steroids at a very young age. I didn't go to most of my school. Like, I would just go to my exams, and I'd just pass my exams. Like, I keep my, what do you call it? Gross. Thank God. You ever been to Hooters? Hooters declaring bankruptcy. Thank fucking Christ. Have you ever been to that place? It is the saddest place on the planet. $2 fucking wings? That's a fucking, immediately, you should, red flag. That is not normal for your wings to be $2. It is the sad. People brought their girlfriends. People had their wife and their kids, like, on fucking Family Fun Day. And I was just very confused. I didn't understand. And you could feel, oh, but like $2, that's like too low. That's like when your Chinese food comes too fast and you're like, like too fast food. Like, there's no way you had time to cook it. But from the time that I called you and the time that you got here, like, I went to the $2 wings night and I had like one, and I was just like, everyone else was just like disgusting about it. I don't even know. It's fine. That's amazing. Somebody found a pack of handicap parking things, selling them for $50. That's fantastic. Oh, no, it's kicking me. Like, I get people are tired all the time. People have been saying this to me my whole life. Everybody's tired, Madison. I'm like, yes, I get it. Everybody's tired, but this is past tired. Like, on average, I can sleep 15 hours a day. Like, that's super not normal. Like, I have to sleep minimum 11 hours to be able to have, like, a consistent 5 hours. I know. Like, and it's not because I'm sad. My mother sleeps that much, but she's medicated. Like, and medication just made me feel worse, so So I've been on speed since I was 16. I'm now 30 every day. But it's not like I go out and party. I take it half an hour before. I take one half an hour before I wake up, and I have to fall back asleep. And then by the time my next alarm goes off, it starts to kick in, and then I can get up and start getting ready to go to work. And it takes me like an hour or so to get out the door to go to work. And that's when I am allowed to work, when the government doesn't take away my fucking license. I love when people see like stray dogs and people just take a picture and put it online. Fuck yeah. Billy Syrian. Fucking love that crazy, beautiful bitch. I am where I am because other people helped me. For that reason, I will never stop helping other people. Shut up. Shut up. No way. So because we got I had a prescription for Adderall. And then my doctor saw my Dom in the waiting room, and he thought that Dom was my pimp. And I was just so confused. And he thought that he was taking my Adderall, but I was just really depressed because I had somebody very close to me pass away. Well, like 2 people, like one after the other, but I was just like very upset. And yeah, no, he saw Dom in the waiting room, and he stopped giving me my Adderall prescription. I was a year and a half clean. Clean. Like, to me, if I'm taking Adderall, that's not clean. And they tried to give me Vyvanse, but it's too up and down. Like, I can't make it through the day. And then they tried to give me Ritalin, but Ritalin's very much not the same thing. Ritalin made me feel like I was fucking on lithium. Because I've taken lithium recreationally. That's why I don't do prescriptions. Not really, like... Apparently I'm the biggest drug-a-rooney around. I used to like prescriptions. My mom is like a walking pharmacy. Because whatever she wants, she gets. So, I like prescriptions too much, so I don't take them. At all. Like, I don't take Tylenol really even. Sometimes I do if... See, but, okay, there's a difference between real Xanax and street Xanax. Very different. My mom gives me real Xanax when we're having panic attacks. But yeah, no, street Xanax is very different. I tried it once. I did a quarter of a bar. And I'm not someone who ever has to be babysat, but I remember the guy I was living with at the time, I guess I was passing out, and he was like, Madison. And I was like, what? Huh? And he was like, oh my God, you just like passed out sitting up. It's like, I'm going to bring you to bed. And I was like, okay, sure, fine. So I went to bed, and then the next day he woke me up, and I was like, Ryan, it's past 5 o'clock. You're going to be late for work. He's like, what are you talking about? It's 5 p.m., Matt. You've been sleeping since yesterday. And I was like, no. It's like, it can't be 5 p.m. He's like, no, it's 5 p.m. Oh no, that's just so dangerous and like fucking okay, that's why I got banned from hanging out with my friends because I didn't want to do ketamine. And ketamine, I worked at a pet store, and sometimes the cats would come back from getting fixed, and I'm like, ketamine. Oh, my friends take that. And I'm someone who, by default, I have a lot of negative thoughts. I like my thoughts of suicide started from like 8 up until I was like 25 about. I would have like consistent thoughts of suicide that like I'd be doing my family a favor because I'm such a burden to them. It would be better if I wasn't around, and like years of like planning it so that like my parents would never find me, and I'd have someone who would come explain it to them like later on, like I after a year or two, so that they wouldn't look for me forever. Like I had that shit down pat, like, and then someone explained to me like that's not normal. Like it's not normal to constantly have to remind yourself, no, that's not true. It would not be better if you were not around. Like it was like years of constantly doing that and reminding myself, don't think that way. So ketamine is a dissociative drug, meaning I could see like a moving train. Yeah, but like no one tells you that 8-year-olds aren't supposed to think of suicide. Like you're supposed to have like life contemplation, but like not like planning like and writing notes to specific people. Like that's not normal for little kids to do that. And I thought everybody like had these contemplations. So yeah, like I feel like ketamine would probably not be a very good drug for me to play around with, because I could see the train and be like, it wouldn't really matter if I just jumped in front of that train right now. Nothing would change. The world would be like just the same. So why don't I just go jump in front? Like I can see myself having that. Like I'm very I would consider myself very responsible in my drug consumption. Like I don't do drugs to party at all. It's not my cup of tea. And people who are like on Xanax and ketamine are just like not fun. Because like people go into K-holes and you're not fun. So I don't really drink unless I'm by myself, because I think I'm a fucking great time when I'm drunk. No one else does. So I drink by myself. It's great. Lakeshore Hospital. Oh my god, it's one of those block things with the wires and the little balls, and you push them around in your little kid. Thing that your mom is like, don't touch that in the doctor's office. Yeah, but see, like there used to be this thing called all my friends were into ecstasy, and I did it by myself. I did an orange diamond in my basement by myself because I didn't want to be like fucked up in front of my friends, and I did not like it. I ate a PB&J and went to bed. And then the second time I did ecstasy, it was because the guy who we met up with, he brought me blue hearts. I'm like, this is not speed. He goes, yeah, it's speed. I'm like, they're blue. He goes, yeah, it's the same thing. I'm like, whatever. And he sold me $10 a fucking pill. And I took one, waited 45 minutes, nothing happened. Took another, waited another half an hour, nothing happened. Took the third, and within 5 minutes, all three of them hit me at once. And I was like, guys, I hate to ruin the night, but you have to take me home. Like, I've never done this before, but this is my one time. We need to leave, and you guys need to take me home because I'm not down for this. Like, I don't like people touching me. I don't like people invading my bubble. So, ecstasy was not the drug for me. Not really into it. But all my friends who used to take it when we were younger, there used to be this website called Pill Report. You could type in like what the pill looked like and what area it's from. There would be a bunch of people who collaboratively say like what this specific pill does in case there's anything that was contaminated or anything that was like fucking not like today. Eurowid. It's funny. Last time I went to the police station, they had a big poster with all these different pills on it. I'm like, none of these are made anymore. Like little Sonics. I was like, what? They're like showing all the different kind of pressed pills. I was just like, I taken that one, I taken that one, I taken that one. Anyway, those are my drug stories. They are not very exciting. Like the first time I did acid was after my friend died. And literally, like, we left his funeral. I was wearing this black... Yeah, I'm clean now. But honestly, probably I'm gonna go back on my pills once I get to go back to work. I have to go to the LaSalle to go see if I have any tickets there. They're all parking tickets. That's all. I never ran a red light. I've never been caught speeding. I've literally never done anything. Like, I've never stolen. I've never been arrested for anything. I've only gotten parking tickets. And I'm so much better on them. I would love to get up. Hello. Okay, with the kisses. Okay. You know what? When drugs make you better, no one says anything about the drugs that make you better. You tell somebody who's diabetes, be like, you shouldn't take your insulin. You should just make sure you never eat sugar. Like, not eating sugar is not a way of life. Like, dieting is not a way of life. There's no one who's dieting who's like, I am a happy camper and I get along with everybody. Everyone loves my company. People who diet are horrible to be around. Excuse me. See, that's also, his name was Whiskey, and then my dog's name is Jack, and so everyone thinks I'm going, excuse me, no bites. He's not actually biting me, he's just putting his teeth on me. Except someone bit me not too long ago, gave me a big fat bruise. I pushed him. He fell. Okay. Herman, what kind of dog do you have? We just had to take Mr. Jack to the vet on a Sunday for an emergency appointment that cost like $400. Because that's another problem in our life. Vets that are unregulated with their fucking pricing. Excuse me. Because there is no one regulating the vets. A Doberman. I love Dobermans. They're so pretty. Is your dog's tail cut, I'm assuming? Okay. No, that's so cool. No, I'm super not agoraphobic. It's just Canada and it's winter, so it's hard to go outside anywhere. And where I live right now, you have to have a car. Like, honestly, like there's... I'm not a huge fan of people. Like, there's a lot of people I really like. Yeah, he's got a big backyard. He's got a huge backyard. And we go for walks almost every day. No, I used to have a panic disorder. But as it turns out, if you like eliminate people in your life that make you upset, it's a really good way to get rid of anxiety. So now we just eliminated people in my life that, like, and I'm down to help people with their problems. I really am. Ow! I'm really down to help people with their problems, but like, I don't have anything to give. Like, I don't. I have a stupid dog, maybe you could take temporarily. Okay. No, it's like all my friends are they're crust punks. Yeah, no, I realized that when I was homeless. I realized that if I don't have pets, then I'm schizophrenic. But as long as I have pets, I can talk out loud, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, she's just weird, talks to her animals." But if I ever don't have pets, then I'm literally a schizophrenic person. I started talking out loud. When I first became homeless, I would listen to the radio in my car. Salivated into my eyeball. I listened to the radio in my car, and I talked back to the guys on the radio. And I realized that if people want to know what I'm thinking, it's great if I just go ahead and say all the things that I'm thinking, so that way no one can ever be like, "Well, I didn't know really how you felt about it." Like, because I'm very open to talking about every little stupid thing that comes to my brain, hence this live stream. You guys say I don't talk at all, but this is what happens when I start talking. Ow! Can you? I will smack the shit out of you, shitbag. Hey! Hey! I don't appreciate that. Hey! Hey! It's a good trick. It's what puppies do in litters. Thank you. Hi. Hi. Where's your fucking bone? Eat this. Chew on that. Yeah. Sorry. No, I see. That's the funny part. When you stop doing drugs, then everyone's accusing you of being a drug addict. You're like, oh, it wasn't the drugs. It's just my personality. I've been called the Stas for a lot. In Dallas, but at least it's warm. See, I'm not into the group tenting thing. Not into that. Like, I don't want other people's, like, a lot of other people are like, a lot of other people are sad. That's why they do their drugs, I guess. But for me, it's the drugs that made me sad. Like, I was put on Effexor when I was like 16 by one of my first family doctors. My boyfriend's covered in stab marks, so. But you know what? See, that's the great part about being like dirt broke and like having nothing to steal, or I'm the person who gives all my stuff away. So there's no reason for. See, that's why. Okay, I went to. Yeah, there's every borough here has a tent city now. It didn't used to be like that. It used to be like very specific spots that were tent cities, but every borough now has a tent city in it. It's very shocking, actually, and how big they are. It did, honestly, it did. It like, and I don't know what the fuck happened. Definitely, it has to be. There's a cultural issue. There's a severe cultural issue where. I don't know. And I'm not even like, I'm not saying it's any specific immigrant. Okay, see, the problem is that I voted for Trudeau. Okay. Hey, shit you not. I was 18 and I was hyped. I was hyped to vote. I was very excited to do my part. And yeah, no. Okay, so at that point, Trudeau was babyface Trudeau, and I voted for him because he was gonna make pot legal, and then I was gonna open a pot shop. That's not what happened. First of all, the SQDC, which is what the pot shops are basically McDonald's for marijuana, all with weed that is manufactured. It is low grade weed with something called terpenes, which is basically all, you know, when you have a grinder and the bottom part steals all your fucking good weed. I'm like, I don't want a crystal catcher. I want my crystals in my weed. I want to get high now, not later. Like, that's what they put on the weed, and then they put different flavorings on it and then call it that. It's fucking garbage weed. You cannot, it's all government weed. They started shorting me. They were short because the people, they didn't have the seals on the container. Also the containers. I had like a fucking tower of these containers because I was like, there's got to be like a way I can recycle these, or I can like do a project with them or something, or maybe like at one point they're gonna be like, we're gonna start a recycling project where we take all the containers back, and none of that happened. The waste for the containers was ridiculous. They didn't have seals. They were shorting my weed, so I would get 6 3.5 containers. And when I complained to them, they were like, well, there's no way to see if you're being truthful or not, whether your weed was short. And they were saying that it's possible that it with the air that it dehydrates, so that's why it might be a couple points short. And I was like, but that's the whole point, that you put those little packs in them, no? And for the amount of time that you manufacture or you harvest your weed and get it to store, it shouldn't have reduced. Like, sorry. You know what? It's just because there's not a lot of sunlight ever here. Okay. So yeah, no, Trudeau fucked me in the weed thing because that's most of the reason why I voted for him. I was working in a smoke shop at the time, and I had a lot of different customers. People my age, people older. Yeah, but there's a lot of... Trudeau said that he would let out all the people who were put in jail for weed crimes, which didn't end up happening either, because they had other crimes like burglary or breaking and entering, or some kind of other bullshit traffic incident. Like, so that's why he didn't actually let the people. And he said that the old truckers that are retired, that are not able to work, that we would give them jobs doing fucking what they know how to do, which is growing pot. And that didn't happen either. It's all people who've never smoked weed in their fucking life. They don't give a shit about weed. Weed is not drugs. Weed is medicine. It stops little kids from having seizures, and animals that have frequent seizures, and no one's ever died from marijuana. No cops have never been called because someone's being high and disorderly. Like, at least not off of marijuana. Like, and when I was working in the smoke shop, it was on a highway. That was gonna be my job. That's gonna be my career. I'm gonna be making edibles because it helps for so many things. People's fucking pain. It fucking helps with anxiety. But I will totally say that Jared, what the fuck, right? I'm like, is it 1970? Like, they're like, weed's a gateway drug again. I'm like, wait. Like, I thought we did this already. As to why weed is not a gateway drug. Like, no one's ever like, oh, now that I smoked weed, let's try fucking smoking some crack. Like, what? Yeah, but they're more willing to fucking give you heroin than they're like, I can't get Benadryl anymore. If the store is closed, you can't get Benadryl anywhere. No, excuse me. Honestly, all my hardest drug addict friends do not smoke weed. If I offer them weed, they'll be like, "Oh, no, I don't touch that stuff. Like, that shit fucks me up." I'm like, "Wait, what?" They're smoking a pipe. I'm like, "Okay." Like, literally, most of them don't smoke weed. They have, but years prior, like. And if they smoke weed now, they get very paranoid and they freak out and they can't handle it, which is very bizarre because that actually happened to me for something like 2 years. I was having all the same, I was like a pregnant chick. Every morning I'd wake up, before I stood up, I'd be throwing up. And I got a, not the colon one, not the colonoscopy, endoscopy, the one that goes down your throat. It is it's terrifying. It is horrible. And the doctor came out with my pictures and was like, "All right, so there's nothing wrong with you physically. So we've concluded that it's either anxiety or marijuana." And I was like, "Well, you don't know what you're talking about." And the doctor said, "Okay." As it turns out, it in fact was the marijuana. So, yeah, don't swallow it whole, please. Thank you. So, as it turns out, oh, I did that though. Well, I didn't drive high. It was when I was living in my car. When I was living in my car, I knew that I was too tired to drive, and I remember talking to Bradley, and I told him I was too tired to drive, so I'm gonna go take a nap in my car. And apparently, I woke up at some point, and I got in the driver's seat, and I drove my car, and I drove it off the road, and I barrel rolled my truck, and they had to pull the whole top of my truck off to get me out. I had a broken arm, so now my arm looks like this. Not fun. Wait. This is what a normal arm is, aside from all the bite marks. It's supposed to look like. This is what my broken arm looks like because I caught my cast off after 2 weeks. I also took a nasty bail on my skateboard while wearing a cast, so that was great. Because my board was broken, it cracked and I didn't notice, so I stepped forward too much, and my board fucking went in halfsies, and I did a barrel roll with my cast. Yeah, hardcore. Yeah, no, the car accident was not hardcore. I had 3 lesions on my liver, broken arm, broken leg. My nose was broken. No, I look like my mom. No, I look just like my mom because we have 2 chins. We both have double chins, and we both have a fucked up nose. So, would you believe that at one point in life I had a modeling career? Yeah. No, see, that was the downside of the amphetamines. The reason I wanted real. Hang on, I'm putting a lady undergarments on because I'm fat now, so I have to do that. Yeah, no. The reason I wanted medical grade amphetamine is because I fucked up my skin from street drugs. And it was my spots. I have some spots, but most of them are gone now. But I used to have spots from picking, and I called it my leprosy. I'm turning into a leopard because my one day was poking at my skin, going anti-ouchie, anti-ouchie. I was like, oh fuck. One day he's gonna grow up. I'm gonna have to explain it to him. So that's why I stopped doing the street drugs. Because I didn't care about a modeling career at all. Like, if it meant that I was gonna be tired like that all the time, I'd rather fuck up the modeling career and fuck up my skin and then be awake. Okay. Whiskey? Whiskey! Stop it! Hey, hey, hey! No more. Look, you disturbed the dog. Oh, poor Jack. No, and the reason I talk... Hey, hey, hey! Stop! Stop! No, no! Hey! I'll fuck you up. Bam! Right in the kisser. Ha! No shit! That's what we used to always do for my friend's birthday party. We used to do the party bus. But now, you can't drink in the party bus. So, kind of kills the whole point of it. And the only downside is there's no bathroom. Like, you have to pull over. Hi. What did I say? No. What did I say? I have to discipline my dog. Enough. Hi. Stop. See? Doesn't feel good, does it? Flicked him in the ear. Yeah, but you know what? That's why I did telemarketing. You can easily make $1,000 a day telemarketing if you're good at it. But after like a month, I am no longer good at it because my emotions take over, and then I'm like, I just feel guilty. Most of the time, I end up quitting because they're trying to fire me for not making sales on like certain people who are like, yeah, I'm willing to make a payment plan with you, and it's just like, once you know, the oh, my friend Joanne. Is that what you're asking? What's her name? Or what's my dog's name? My dog's name is Whiskey. Piece of shit! I'll fucking kill you. Hi! 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 Stop! I will fucking end you. Hi! Who's Alpha? That's right. That's also my problem. Like, and I can be annoying too. I get that. It's fine. Like, you're done. Are you done? Where's your bone? So you stop chewing on mine. Excuse you. Excuse. Go get your bone. Where's your bone? Hey. Okay. Watch that small dog. Okay, game over. We're disturbing Jack. And he is recuperating. Yeah. Suffocate you to death. Yeah, well, I need a co-pilot to take both of them because someone's still learning how to walk properly. He's fucking retarded. My dog walks off leash, but he's kind of blind, so kind of gotta pay attention. Whiskey! Sexy Gantler! Hey! Have her neck. I get yelled at if I speak French to the dog. That's not teach the dog French. Please don't teach him French. Okay. So, my face is so red. Whiskey, he's 2, but we just got him. He's my first big dog, but he's more like Jan's dog. Because Jan's girlfriend, or his ex-girlfriend, gave away his dog while he was in jail. Just super fucked up. Wasn't in jail that long, so. He was gone for a few days. Whiskey's still a baby, that's why he's a fucking pain in the ass. Well, Jack is 14. My little pup, he's 14. He's an old man. Why, whenever something happens to him, I'm like fucking panicking, because that's why we got Whiskey. I begged Jan for like over a year to get me another dog, because I need to have something that's gonna keep me from freaking out. Yeah, but see, that's why. Like, I don't want to have a baby. To be honest, like, because I think I was given a vaccine in grade 9 without my parents' knowledge. It was called Gardasil. It's for HPV. I walked in late to the school, and they were like, "Go get your vaccine." And I was like, "Do I have to?" And they're like, "Well, do you want vagina cancer, Madison?" I was like, "No, I don't have vagina cancer." Like, "Well, go get vaccinated." So I went and got vaccinated, and then I was infertile for 10 years. Like, with multiple partners. Like, for my last boyfriend, we were trying for 6 years, probably 5 years maybe, to have a baby, and I wasn't getting pregnant. I was using protection since I was like 16 years old. No protection whatsoever. I would go for all these different like types of scans and shit. Like, it's an internal ultrasound. Yeah, no, but you know what? Because like, especially like other people would be like, when are you having a baby? Like, when are you gonna be next? And it's just kind of like, even like my ex-boyfriend's mother, she would be bothering me and bothering like, yeah, but like I have no money. I can't prove it. And I told my doctor, my gyno, I had like multiple gynecologists that I went to that were like, "Are you trying to get pregnant?" I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm not trying." They're like, "So what's the problem?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess so, up until you're trying, and then it's not happening." And it's like, I had multiple partners that I had tried with, and I kind of like accepted that I was probably gonna have to adopt. I was super down for that. Like, I would have wanted to adopt like 2 native kids. You know what? I was 16. They gave me like the receipt for the vaccination, and they told me to put it in my vaccination booklet. And I'm a 16-year-old. Where do you think it went? It went to the bottom of my locker. And everything in my locker got thrown out at the end of the year. Like, because it was just fucking a bunch of junk in there. Like, you don't fucking trust like a 16-year-old for important correspondence. And my parents didn't know about it. They didn't even know I got vaccinated, because at 14, they don't have to give you the okay. At 16, you're now in control. Like, you have the right to, yeah. So they don't even have to tell you. And I went for something called an internal ultrasound, which is basically they fuck you with RoboCop. So that was a super uncomfortable. I made the girl laugh, because I was just like, "So, how's having a career and having like uncomfortable, casual conversation while violating people?" And she's like, "Well, it's actually not that bad, because like it's all women, so like women know what it's like." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess so." She's like, "I actually prefer like the older people." I'm like, "It's never like when people go to the dentist and don't brush their teeth." She thought it was funny. My gynecologist, I do funny things like I'll shave my pubes into funny things like a top hat. He said that was first. I would say like in gynecology places they shove Where's Waldo on the ceiling. I'm starting to think that people go for jobs like this literally because like there's like it's like Tucker Carlson where he's just like in the right place at the right time, like someone doesn't show up and they're like, hey, you, can you read? He's like, yeah. They're like, do you want a 30-year career? And just being like, so what is systematic racism? Like he's actually asking. That's Tucker's whole career is that he's a fucking idiot and he doesn't know anything. That's how he got his job. I'm pretty sure that everybody of like a substantial title at this point gets their job because they're like, a friend of a friend has an open position. Do you know how to do this basic thing like read? And they're like, yeah, I know how to read. And they're like, well, here you go. Here's a career. But like, how did this person get to like have this fucking career that they don't deserve? Because for years I went to see all these different specialists and they were like, well, there's nothing wrong with your lady parts. I love Tucker. I love Tucker Carlson. I think he's fucking hilarious. I like seeing people who are very privileged start to go through the motions of reality and they start to like talk to average people and he's like, wow, really, that happened to you? That's crazy. And it's just like this happens to so many people. I really like seeing him becoming humble or like a little bit more of like a person with social intellect of some kind, because like the guy is just he's not smart. His laugh is very, very great. He's got a great laugh. It's very cute. But no, I don't like Tucker Carlson. I think he's okay, but I think his whole career is basically just asking a question because he doesn't know, and he just is like, explain this to me. And it's like, that's kind of your job, though. You're the one who's the news anchor. You're the one who's supposed to be explaining what it is. But it's just him asking. Ben Shapiro is hilarious. That man is so obsessed with homosexuality. Like, he's the epitome of in the closet. Absolutely, and it comes from sheer jealousy. Like, I'm envious. I'm truly envious of these people because I've had money. I've had money before, and I didn't like it. I'd rather be poor. I chose to live in my car. It's not because I couldn't crash with anyone. It's because I didn't want to. It's because I was not in a good place. And I really hated myself at the time. And I had nothing to offer. I had nothing left to offer. I had nothing left to give. I had no even emotional support. Like, I was just so broken. And I was just like so like hurt by people that I was counting on, that I just didn't want to be around people. Like, at all. Like, because that's not who I am normally. But I was just so beat down, and I had a lot of friends, one after the other, pass away. Like, and the first time you shoot someone up in the lock zone is scary. The second time you shoot someone up in the lock zone is scary. It doesn't get less scary. And after so many of my friends dying, and my friends were still doing it, and like they'd be mad at you. Craziest thing is when someone dies and you shoot them up in the lock zone, they're fucking mad at you because you just fucked up their high. I couldn't handle it anymore. Like, and I work in customer service. Like, I've been working since I was 8 years old. I worked in a truck stop when I was 8 years old, and I've been employed ever since. Like, for summer jobs, and I go back to school, and then it's all about like playing the game, you know. Like, I realized that like for my airport job, man, was that fucking. I paid into union dues. I paid into EI. I thought I was getting a sweet deal. I was doing 10 hours, 4 days. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, when your parents couldn't afford babysitters, they would take you to work. And I did everything my mom did. The truckers loved me. They taught me how to pour coffee right. The truckers loved me. They would give me tips to go play in the claw machine and shit. But that's how you learn work ethic when you're growing up younger and you were poor and your parents couldn't afford babysitters. They would take you to work. So I did everything my mom did. I did the cash, selling cigarettes. I did inventory. Like, I've been doing that since I was 8 years old. I wanted to help my mom. I wanted to help her. Like, I didn't get paid. I got paid in tips. I would get tips. But like the truck was really nice because like they like seeing like a young kid that was like working really hard, and they give me like a $5 tip, $10 tip sometimes. Like, and that was my money too. Like, I bought what I want. I ended up buying a work shirt. It was called Bully's Truck Stop, and they had employees usually get a free shirt, but I had to pay for it. My mom was like, "You really want to spend $20 of your money on that?" And I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Okay, fine. Get the Be a Bully shirt." And I wore it to school, my first week of high school. And this cool kid, his name was Tyler Glasgow. And he was native. He lived on the reserve. And he looks at me and goes, "Why are you wearing a Bully shirt?" I'm like, "I work there." He goes, "Yeah, but you're not native." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not native. I'm white." He goes, "So why are you wearing a Bully shirt if you're not native? It's a native shirt." I was like, that's kind of fucking like ignorant in the opposite direction. Can I just say that? Like, kind of being an asshole about it. And like later on, he ended up coming and I don't even know how he knew I was in the field. It was between exams. I was just staying in the field for like between my exams, and he came and found me. He was like, "I want to apologize. I want to say sorry. That was very ignorant of me, but it's just how I was raised. Like on the reserve, it's like my best friend's older sister, Christina. I face painted her kids' birthdays for free. I babysat at her house, and she wouldn't look at me. And one day we were in the party bus, and I ended up sitting next to her, and she kind of like getting tipsy. So I was really like planning this. Like I was very strategic. I was like, I'm gonna wait till she gets like a little like more loose, and like I'm gonna have the conversation with her. Be like, "Christina, why don't you like me? Like I've been friends with Joanne for like over a decade, and I've been to your house. I go to your kids' parties. I face paint for free. Like what? You clearly don't like me. Can I just ask why? Like, what did I do that made you not like me so much?" She goes, "Because you're white." I was like, "Yeah, but there's nothing I can do about that. So, like, that's it?" And she goes, "That's it." I'm like, "So there's nothing I can do to get you to not hate me?" And she goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay." Asked and answered, I guess. But that Tyler guy, I have high respect for Native people. But that Tyler kid, we ended up becoming really good friends. And on his way home from a friend's house, he got hit by a car. Someone who was fleeing the police, and the police weren't supposed to pursue him because white cops aren't supposed to go on the reserve. They're not supposed to pursue. And the guy ended up hitting Tyler like a couple of houses down from where he lived. But Natives, the way they do funerals is much different. They have 2 days of the wake at the longhouse, and we slept there in tents at the longhouse. And he's on a board, and he had an eye patch on because the glass was broken in his eye. He got like a bunch of foundation on, and you could feel like there's like plastic holding him together. And like you can go up, and you can touch him, and his mother's there, and you can go say hi to his mother and give her condolences and such. And that was the toughest funeral I've ever been through. Like, the guy doing his eulogy was just like, if you want to go play video games with him, he won't be there. Like, I was like very snotting, and I was going to get up and leave because I couldn't breathe. And Joanne grabbed me and sat me back down. She's like, "You fucking stay here." I was like, "Joanne, I can't breathe." She's like, "I don't give a shit. Wipe it on your sleeve." Like, I like how Native people do funerals. Because as it turns out, when you don't have any kind of funeral or like memorial, it's actually worse. I called her my better mom. She had a scleroderma. It's the walls of your lungs hardened, but she got a double lung transplant, so we got an extra 13 years with her. But I call her my better mom because she's like the person I go to when I can't handle my mom. Okay. So it's very complicated. The natives that live next to me in Ganawage, they are Mohawk. They're Iroquois, I think. or Algonquin. I don't know. But they're very different than the Métis and the Inuits. They fly the Inuits down here for free, and they fly them back whenever they want, and they get 3 different monthly paychecks. They did not, Jared. They did not. See, the French also like to say that the Native Americans helped them when the English came, to be like, oh shit, there's still French people here. You guys are inbreeding. There's diseases everywhere. So they came back to eliminate the rest of the French population that was left over. And the natives apparently helped them fight the English when the English came. Yeah. So, see, I wasn't there. I don't know anything about anything like that. But I know the Oka crisis. I wasn't alive. I was born in 94. This was in 91. And I see videos of the Oka crisis. And that was pretty fucked up. I go down that highway. I would go down that highway twice a day on the way to work. Yeah, but you know what? If you look at the Twin Towers, guess who did the Twin Towers? The natives. Because I know them. The iron workers that helped build the Twin Towers, I know some of them. They have a hilarious picture of them. They wouldn't even have harnesses or anything. I have a great amount of respect for them, because during the Oka crisis, the only reason that happened, it was that the white people wanted to extend their golf course onto a native burial ground. And the natives said no. Because obviously, if someone was like, we're going to come and build on your graveyards, it would be laughable. It wouldn't be a conversation. And the white people were like, well, we're going to do it anyway. And they brought in the army. If you look at videos of the Oka crisis, we do have reservations. Yes, we do. And they don't, Oka is a bit different. Oka is a little bit more touristy. I met Chief Nolan. He was fucking awesome. That guy was hardcore, super badass. And I think he knew about there's a lot of crime that goes through the natives. And I think he knew about that, but there's a lot of the elders who... They do. They're called the peacekeepers, and they're the only authorities that I have any respect for. The peacekeepers do not pull you over for spot checks. They pull you over for speeding. They're the people that live at the reserves, so they're very chill. There was one time we were drinking. It was my friend Joanne. She was living with her grandmother. We went behind her house. There's a little park. And we went to go drink 40s. And the police showed up, and she goes, bring your beer behind you. Bring your beer behind you. And he walks up. He goes, Joanne? And she goes, Kyle? And I'm like, what the fuck's happening right now? He goes, oh, shit, how you doing? He's like, oh, okay, well, one of the neighbors complained, so, just gonna go drink somewhere else. And he made it so we could join with him. He was really cool, actually. No, the peacekeepers are they're phenomenal. They're the only police that are not going to give you a hard time because they're having a fucking bad day and they're looking for someone to take it out on. The police here, everything in Quebec's different than the rest of Canada. Everything in Quebec is different. Natives do not get drunk quicker. Okay, so all my friends are self-hating. All my best friends are self-hating natives. My last boyfriend, he's very native. His mother didn't really like me because I wasn't native and I wasn't gonna pop out like a million babies. But Cameron, I've never seen someone drink like that. The first time I met him, he was pissed off that some girl she's into something called white nights. So it's guys that are lonely and take a girl out to dinners and let her go shopping on their dime and shit, but she doesn't commit to them. She's not dating them. They're not her boyfriend, and she'll have multiple. So he was pissed off about that. And when I got there, he was already drunk, and the bartender told me that he was there since like 5, and it was like almost 10 o'clock by the time I got there. And she was like, he's been here like throwing back shots since like 5 o'clock. Cameron, that doesn't drop. Like same with Joanne. They drink, they don't drop. And I don't see that with white people. Like, and you know what? Natives are honestly the funnest fucking party you've ever been to. Like they fucking party really fun. Fucking the best time that I was doing deliveries was I wasn't even working for Domino's. My boyfriend at the time was working for Domino's, and I was in the car with him while he did deliveries. And at one point, they gave him like a $50 tip because he didn't have change. I just farted and burped at the same time. I was supposed to be rolling a joint, but now I'm talking about it. Yeah, no, I have a high respect for the natives, but the natives and the Inuits and the Métis people that come from up north, they're not the same thing at all. Because I used to hang out in Ganawage. I grew up hanging out in Ganawage, even though I'm white. I don't know why I used to hang out in graveyards. It used to be like my thing. I used to hang out in graveyards. Really weird. But the natives, they like me because if you're not native and you're in town and you're walking through town, everybody stares at you. They watch you because it's like a neighborhood watch type situation, which I'm down for. Like, we don't need the cops. Like, you know what? I used to be the person. New England. Honestly, the research that you're gonna get, unfortunately, it is written by white people. Native people have this thing that they do. It's very odd. They tell white people things that are not true because they're gullible. Like at one point, I literally took if you're native, you tell me about some like native story, I believe you every word. I believe it word for word, and I will not doubt that you are deceiving me anyway. And they like that. They have fun with that. Because I will relate it to other people, and they go, no. It's really funny. Honestly, it sucks because I've relayed information that was told to me by a native person, and another native person was like, what? No? Who told you that? I was like, this other native person. And they're like, they were fucking with you. I was like, what? Really? Because I have told other people since then. Yes, Jacko, I'm coming. It is so, like, I smell really bad. It's very, very warm. Okay, let's see if my boyfriend got arrested. Okay. Do you hear my dog? Okay, wait. Don't listen to ChatGPT. Everything ChatGPT says is fucking wrong. I don't know why. Like, I can't Google anything anymore because it's always not giving me the information I need. I'm coming, Boobaroo. Oh, I have like a weird theory that since I've stopped doing speed, for some reason I'm having like insomnia pretty bad. And I shake like I got the DTs. Okay, so what I realized, the best thing to do if you're looking for history about a specific person, the best person to ask is someone from that heritage. Because it's funny. He's one of the security guards at my high school. and his kids are in school now, and he's like, I just want to share what book my kids came home with, and it's that a page that says that the Native Americans made room for the colonizers. And he was just like, this is actually what they're still teaching my children, and natives have to come home and teach their kids why that's not accurate. The natives did not make room for the colonizers. That's not an optional choice. When you kidnap people's children, sell them into sexual slavery, murder their husbands, and then rape their wives, that's not really a choice. But it's true. They are colonizers. Yeah, but Canada's not Europe. Like, just because we're part of the EU does not make us Europe. Like, otherwise we would be trading euros. Like, I don't know what the natives did though, because I don't have their history. Their history is all by word of mouth. And if you speak to the elders, because I grew up, one of my best friends growing up, her name was Gogo Yusta. She's the counselor for all the native schools. And Gogo Yusta she was part of the 60s scoop, her and her sister. She was taken when she was 5, and her sister was 2. And one day she woke up and her sister was gone. I've never seen Gogo Yusta get emotional. I've never seen her get emotional ever. This fucking adorable little old lady. And she told me that her and her sister were taken when they were babies, and she was bottle feeding her sister. And one day she woke up and her sister was gone. And they told her that her sister had died of pneumonia. There was no burial for her. There was no death certificate for her sister. And they said that, like little kids, they make up stories. It's probably her dolly that she remembers being her sister. And she goes, no, I remember that my sister went in with me because I was the one bottle feeding her every 2 hours. So the fact that she was like, seeing Gogo Yusta, and she wasn't crying, but her tears were coming out of her eyes. And she was like, I never knew what happened to my sister. And I hope that before I go, I'll be able to know at least what happened to her. Like, and I hope that Gogo Yusta does get that. Like, and if you look at pictures of sanatoriums were these facilities where they would take kids with TB. I still can't tell you what TB is. I've been looking up TB for a couple of years now, and like, from what I understand, TB is literally everything. It's an autoimmune deficiency disease, whatever. And I still don't really have like an exact answer, but if you look at all those kids in the sanatoriums, they seem to be all not white. They're mostly native children. So, and like, they accuse Putin of kidnapping children from Ukraine. But honestly, parents from Ukraine were using their fucking children as human shields while they were attacking Russia, and Russia wasn't able to do anything because he didn't want to kill a bunch of innocent children. So he brought them and put them in a camp. And all these kids are like, we love camp. This is great. This is so much better than the fucking wasteland of fucking frozen tundra. Nothing grows. Like, the kids were super. There was like 2-3 kids that they interviewed that were like, oh, I miss my mom. And then the mother is just like an overbearing, like psychotic fucking helicopter mom that is using her kid for this publicity stunt. Like, and her kid even looks a little bit fucked up and weird. Like, he's just always upset. I don't know. So, you know what? And they're like, Putin's kidnapping kids and putting them in internment camps, like in the Holocaust. And it's like, but he didn't. There was a bunch of parents, like, and I super disagree with parents using their kids as props. Like, I don't think you should be able to take your children to protests. Ever. Same with fucking Sunday school. Sunday school, the whole point of it is to get kids when they're young and they're easily manipulated and they believe stories and they get scared of these stories because they are being told that fucking just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not true. Like, I was super against using children as props. Yeah, but see, even if they did, that doesn't excuse us doing fucked up shit after. Two wrongs don't make a right. You know what? If it was done to white people, it wouldn't even be a fucking conversation. Like, taking someone's kids away, that's part of the reason why I don't have children right now. I shit you not. Because you'll have to fucking kill me. If I don't fucking come and take my fucking kid away, you'll have to kill me. I would fucking flee the country. Hear about all these Amber Alerts? Like, how is it you're telling me that a parent kidnapped their own child? Like, who was it? Fucking the comedian. What's his name again? Jim Jeffries. About his wife was forcing him to vaccinate their kids. Come inside, or there we go. No squirrel? Okay, go. Yeah, Andrews and running squirrels. So, if you guys heard, no, it's super warm. It's like fucking 3 degrees or something. That's how you know you're Canadian when you're like, it's only -3. It's so nice out. Yeah, 3 degrees. And the dog's running around like a psychopath. Yeah, I have a huge yard. This is my reward for being homeless for 6 years. I have a super beautiful house with a super beautiful yard. I have a little swing. It's a skateboard swing. I have like a little weird kid swing thing. The neighbors put the trampoline in the yard for the first year that we were there, but we smoke pot, so I'm assuming they don't want to be like, hey, can you guys like not smoke pot while my kids jump on your trampoline? But like honestly, I would not care. I have squirrels that I feed. I'm not meant for this climate at all. I would be fine if I never saw snow again. And he's pooping. Okay. We'll give you some privacy there. I am not meant for this climate. I would be fine if I never saw snow ever again for as long as I live. Okay. While I'm here, I was showing people my card collection. I gave away my Pogs because apparently Pogs are like literally worthless. The Slammers people want. But I was showing off my card collection. Okay. These ones are really nice. Super nice cards. These are hockey. All hockey. I have look. I have stacks of hockey cards. These are the NHL ones. Yeah, but there's actually some, like really nice cards too. Like old cards. It's upside down. Yeah. Anyway, I inherited someone's card